I tend to do 12 inches by 12 inches at 300 DPI or dots per inch. And I'm just going to go into the canvas information and show you that tends to be 3600 pixels, 12 inches by 12 inches, and 300 DPI. I do this size because I have an older iPad, and so I can't do as many layers. And 12 inches by 12 inches is usually plenty big enough for like a t-shirt design. So I do tend to do that, and then I can drag it into Photoshop if I need to resize it later. And we're going to be doing a fall, like trendy stamp set type design. I have some stamp brushes that I had made to just like add as an add-on. I think they're like $3 to go in and use in Procreate to make designs with my Christmas and my fall and my sports themes and all of that. So I'm getting those set up right now. And once I selected my stamp and I stamped it to the page, resized it, I'm duplicating everything so that I can make 4 squares in a square, which would be a really good size for a t-shirt. You can also do, I have like long rectangle ones that you can use for this. And we're just going to get everything lined up. I actually have snapping on to help me do that because I am horrible at just guessing. So this is where you turn your snapping on once you have used your selection tool. And I'm going to go ahead and merge those together because I do not have a lot of layers on here. And then I've selected and I'm going to click it as a reference and add a new layer so that I can drag and drop my different fall colors in without it going to the main layer because we're going to have layers upon layers upon layers and adjustments to make a final design on this. So it's just kind of part of the process. But unfortunately, like I said, I don't have a lot of layers that I can do on here because it's an older iPad. It doesn't have a lot of storage. So once I start dragging and dropping, I'll be merging everything together. And I just clicked into one of my fall color palettes that I have, and I'm going to go in and select the different colors that I think would complement pretty well with this. And then you just drag from the color straight into the stamp because we have the outline set as a reference. So it's going to fill in the outline on a separate layer that I have selected so that everything's not merged together in case we need to do some edits. And the threshold is pretty high on this, but these are completely closed and there's no gaps or issues, so you don't have to really worry about that quite as much. Now, I did use a very textured brush for this, so some of them we're going to have to adjust the thresholds a little bit when we go in and we start to drag and drop colors because it could really mess up what it's selecting and what it's filling. So once I finish my stamp layer and we've got everything done with that, I want to go back to my black color and we're going to start doing the actual fall elements. So I think I'm going to start with an apple. I think that would be good. Um, I had that a little bit too high. Let me drag that down a little bit and then stamp it again. And then I'm going to duplicate this 2 to 3 times and then merge it together, which you just do by pinching your fingers together on those layers so that I can make sure there's no gaps. Because like I said, it is a textured brush. Sometimes there will be gaps in there that maybe I don't catch. And by duplicating it, it thickens up the lines just enough that that shouldn't be as much of an issue. Then, of course, we're going to do our pumpkin because this is a fall design and go ahead and duplicate that and merge that by pinching together. And then once I get done doing all 4 elements, we're going to merge all these layers and then use this layer as a reference layer now. So we have our apple, we have our pumpkin, let's do a leaf. And all of these stamps are in my Procreate stamp brushes for the fall elements. And I've just released one yesterday that is 25 Christmas elements. Super excited about it. So I've got to get to work on getting all these designs up before the holidays. But we've got our pretty little flower, and I think that's a good set of elements there. It definitely screams fall for us. Let's duplicate that again. And of course, merge. And then here in a minute, I'm probably going to have to merge all of the layers together, grouping them like here's the elements, here's the stamps. But we're going to start by just making our apple our reference, and we're going to start dragging and dropping the colors that I would like in order to fill those layers and get that. And of course, don't forget you're doing this on a new layer. And see, the threshold is too high for this. So once you drag, you want to hold your pencil down or your finger, however you're dropping the color in, on the canvas. Don't lift it, and then drag it to the left, and you can see the threshold is decreasing. It's at about 70% now. So it made it to where it was not filling in incorrectly for the leaf and the apple. So that's my first color set. I have to turn the reference off on that and turn the reference on the pumpkin. Once again, obviously create a new layer because we want everything to be layers upon layers upon layers so that we can edit anything that we may need to do with that. Um, I definitely don't want to accidentally merge layers. It happens all the time where I merge layers too much and then I go back in and I can't edit it because it's layered incorrectly. And we don't wanna have to do that. We don't wanna have to start over or we want this to be a really cute design and not have a lot of issues. So, let's go in and drag in the stem color, which I'm just gonna keep it pretty simple to like a brown, and of course, I did have to merge my layers in here, so that we can not have too many layers. So merge the stamp fills, the stamps are merged for the outlines, and then the clip art is merged. And then I will probably go in and merge the clip art colored fill layers once I get everything how I need it to. But once again, I've got to adjust the threshold. I actually have a gap in here I need to fix. Let me see. Oh, no, I had forgotten to turn the reference on, that's why. Silly me. It happens all the time. This is definitely not like a quick, perfect tutorial of things that I do, but now we've got our apple and we've got our pumpkin field, and we're gonna do a leaf. And I'm trying to do complementing colors here, but also contrasting colors. We don't want everything to be the same because then it's not gonna stand out and it's gonna be kind of blur. It's just gonna kind of blur together. It's gonna be hard to see. And later on in this, once I finish doing references and doing the clip art fill layers, we're gonna go in and add like our accents and some white and probably some highlights or shadows or something to help this design pop a little bit more. But I just kind of wanted to walk you through how to use the stamps. I've had a lot of requests. I have a lot of people that are a little unsure about Procreate. Maybe they're new to it. I've been doing Procreate for about 2 years, but I definitely don't know everything that there is to know about Procreate, and you just kind of have to get started and you learn as you go. And there's people way better at Procreate than I am that know all the tips and tricks. And I just kind of use what I need in order to make the designs and the things that I'm doing because I'm selling alpha sets, I'm selling PNG designs, I'm doing seamless patterns and digital papers. So my focus is really on how you create those things in Procreate and not necessarily some of the other things that people do in Procreate. But anyways, back to the designing. So we've got everything dragged and we've got everything dropped in there except for the flower. So I don't, what color should I do? I'm not really sure. I want to keep it within the 4 colors that we've done, but I want it to contrast a little bit. So maybe do the brown for that or like a light tan. The peach color I don't really like. I feel like that's just way too close to the orange that's in there. Yeah, we definitely need to go with like a brown or a tan or something that's a little bit light. I like that. That looks better. So now we have all of our colors and everything's dragged and filled in and now we're gonna go ahead and start on a new layer and I'm gonna select black and I'm gonna go into my brush collection that I use to make my designs. And this messy paint brush I got from Three Jits and a Mimi in one of her courses. I'm not really sure which one, but she has them in a lot of them and I just love to make designs with it. It's awesome. But we're gonna go in and we're gonna add some accents. So basically that's just adding some lines and just to let you know, I'm horrible at doing straight lines. So I usually have to do it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 times, or sometimes I'll just draw and then hold my pencil in place and that will snap it to where it's a straight line. And that also helps me obviously do straight lines as needed. But we're just going to do some accents on some things. Right now, I'm just doing them inside the frames just to give it a little bit more. We wanna do as many contrasting things as we can while still blending together really well to help make the design pop. So usually I start by like accents or some designs I'll do some swirlies or things like that. And then after that, I'll go in and I will do usually like some white. I'm just gonna go ahead and add in a few more right here. I may try to go ahead and do some shadows and blur this together. We'll see how that looks. Of course, I didn't get a straight line, but we'll see how it looks. And I'm just going to adjustments up here and Gaussian blur, and I'm going about 5%. I think I did. I put everything on the same layer, so we're not gonna do that because if I try to blur the little bitty accents that I did, then it's gonna blur everything, and I don't wanna do that. So let's just try doing some whites blur on there to kinda give it just a little bit more depth. And when I get done doing and I'm just doing this really quick, I'm just doing a line here, a line there. I mean, it's nothing you don't have to make it perfect. And then I'm gonna go ahead and blur it to about 11 to 12% and see how it just gives her a little bit of a glow, a little bit of just a little extra there. And then we need to do our clip art because our clip art is definitely just very flat and it's not popping for me at all. So I want to go in and do some little accents on that we can blur here in just a second, and that'll kind of give that a little bit more of a pop too. So I've got the leaf, got the apple, let's do the flower. And I'm just doing all of this on the same layer because it's all gonna be blurred the same amount for the most part, and then we'll see how everything looks and then go from there. Um, I don't do a lot of designs necessarily like this right now. I'm focusing more on my alpha sets and things, but I do think that it's very pretty, and I like that it is doing a little bit more, so we're gonna do some blur, and that doesn't look horrible. I may go a little bit more, let's see. I want it to pop without it doing too much, because if you blur it too much, then you're not gonna be able to see the highlight, and that's exactly what happened with my flower. So let's go back in and go ahead and do the flower again really quick. And I just did it on its own layer because I don't wanna re-blur the blur that I've already done, if that makes any sense. So the layer that we've already done a Gaussian blur on, we don't wanna blur it again because then you're definitely not gonna be able to see it. So I just did that on a new layer, and now you can see a little bit of a hint of just a light color on there, and I think that looks pretty good. I hope that this helps. I hope that you guys like the tutorial and, like and subscribe and go check out my Etsy shop. I've got tons of resources for designers. Thank you so much.